When customers ask you to move large pieces of furniture, it's really important that you have a hold harmless form that they sign to remove liability if you or your crew were to actually accidentally damage that piece of furniture. You're not a professional mover. They're not hiring you to move, they're hiring you to paint. So you need to make sure that if you're willing to do this, that if something were to happen, you're not the one liable. And in this process that I'm walking through, this is part 4 of a 6-part video series on how to manage this whole hold harmless process internally inside of Airtable. It's super quick and efficient. And this particular video is on building the automation inside of Airtable that's going to generate that contract in eSignatures and automatically email and send it to the customer. So this is probably the most advanced portion. We are going to be dealing with a little bit of JavaScript and the eSignature API. So buckle up. This is hard, especially if you're not a developer, but I will walk you through exactly how to do this. So let's dive right in. First, we're going to go to the automations, and I'm going to create an automation from scratch here and just walk you through how I think about this. So the first thing is we need to trigger the automation to fire. So remember, we have our hold harmless table here. And I want anytime that there is a record in this row that has everything filled out and the signed agreement is empty, I need this to fire. In my situation, when I generated when I have the crew generate, I guess I'll do it right now to just show you. When I go in here and the crew clicks generate a hold harmless form, if they were to drop a file in here, because let's say the customer doesn't have email or they're not tech savvy and they'd prefer to just sign something via paper, the crew leader can upload this. And if they do that, it's not going to have the automation trigger. So when I put, test, 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 and I don't have a file there inside of my Airtable base, I have a document that says signed agreement, or the signed agreement is empty, but everything else is filled out. So that's when I need the automation to trigger. So if I go back to my automations here, I'm going to say when a record matches certain conditions, and the conditions that I want to be, or first I'm going to select the hold harmless table because that's what we're watching. And the conditions that we're going to be looking for is first when the description is not empty. So we want to make sure that if it is empty, that would be silly to send to the customer. We need to make sure that there is some description of what we're doing, or it defeats the whole purpose. So I'm going to add that in. We're also going to say, and the signed agreement section, which is what I was just talking about. So signed agreement is empty. And then lastly, the project, we also need to know the project. If we don't have a project, we're not going to be able to know any of like who's this getting sent to or any of that. So once again, we're going to say, and the project is not empty. So it's always nice to have a couple different fields and that you're watching to make sure that, for example, if I didn't have these other two and I just added a new record like this, how do I make sure that this doesn't trigger the automation? Because that was a mistake. Doesn't actually have the information. So in order to do that, I'm modifying the automation to have a couple other fields that I know these are never going to be empty if it's a correct submission that came from the crew. So now I can click choose record, and it's showing that this is the record that meets the criteria. And now I just need to add the script, which is going to trigger this whole automation. Now, inside of eSignatures, they have their API documentation. So you can, you're going to open up the API docs, and then in the API documentation here, it has an example of what this request needs to look like in order to send a contract. So you can, if you want, you can start and copy all of this, or if you're doing this and following along exactly how I am, I'm going to actually give you the code. There's not an easy way for me to send this script through here other than I can email it to you. So I'm going to give the entire code, which I'm going to paste in here right now. I'm going to provide you with this code and then walk through what you're going to need to change. So from the top, the only thing that we need to have as an input variable is the record ID that is coming from Airtable. So the value of that is going to be the Airtable record ID. So this is the record ID that is triggering this automation is going to be right there. So you can see that right at the top, it says, configure input config record ID. So now we're getting the record ID that we just passed in. And then the base, if you have a different title for your table, you're going to want to name this whatever that base is called. And then in this section here, you just need to modify whatever field names you are passing through. So let me go ahead and show you. In fact, I'm going to do a side-by-side here. So let's go view data. And I've got on this side, this will be easier to explain how this all comes together. So you can see here I've got combined job address, and that is literally the title of the field here. So it matches identically: combined job address, job number, project contact first name, project contact last name, project contact phone, email, and description of action. So those are all of the fields that I'm passing in. Then we have to so make sure that all of these match exactly. Then the next part here is we need to let the address equal the value of that variable. So this is a step here. This address field is what is going to be inside of eSignatures. So just to show you how this works in my template here, the Hold Harmless agreement has the project contact first name, project contact last name, job number, etc., all that. So here what we're doing is we are getting the variables, we're storing all this information as address, job number, first name, etc. So this part needs to match what was up here. And then down here we have, where it says email, we're writing in the variable here is called email, which is taking the value that got written here into the email portion there. And then in the next portion here, we've got some placeholder fields. So we need to choose that the API key. So in this placeholder field section, this is where we're going to put in all those variables. And this part here, project contact first name, needs to match exactly what you have inside of your eSignature field. So I'm taking the API key, project contact first name, and the value is going to be first name like that, which is going to be taking the value from this section. Then the next one here, API key, project contact last name, that's this field right here. And again, it's taking the value from this piece right there. And we continue down the list. So all those need to come in. Then the next part that you need to make sure to edit is this eSignature API code here, which is the same one that is right here, eSignature.io API contracts token, and then your secret token. So you're going to take this and you're going to paste in the token here. So you're going to want to make sure that you put in your token right here. So take this and paste the token in there. And the token that you're going to use is the one inside of your eSignature section here. This is the token that needs to be pasted right there. Everything else is good. So once you do that, you can click Finish Editing. And then you can actually run a test on this section here by doing this, test action. And if it's all mapped correctly, you'll see that it was successfully created. And then if you check your email, you should have received an email from this. So we'll do this right now. And you can see that when this is fired correctly, 0 minutes ago, I just got this. And I can go look. If I need to make any edits or modifications, I can do that by going and editing the template if it's just formatting. Or I could go, if there's something that's not showing up, the biggest mistake that people make is the template information here does not match up exactly. So this is the most complicated part of the whole automation. Like I said, I'll provide you with the code that is necessary. So in fact, I'll find a way in the description down below to put the JavaScript that is needed so that you can copy and paste it and then go through and just make edits to the various pieces that you need to make edits to. So hopefully that all makes sense, and we will see you in the next video. Like I said, this is part 4. The next video is going to be the automation that takes it from eSignatures and saves it back into Airtable. Thanks so much for watching. This is a very complex automation. This is a very routine process for us here at Boolean. We do things like this because our goal is to eliminate all the data entry and make it super easy and efficient for your crew leaders, your back office, your entire staff, your sales team, to minimize the amount of data entry that they're having to do when they work on painting projects. So if this is of value, reach out to me. If you had any issues following along, drop them in the comments below. I'll be sure to continue to update and revise this if there's any issues. But this is the most complicated video of the series, so stick with it. I know you can do it, and let me know if you have any issues.